Welcome back, readers. I have more of Gregor the Overlander. I wanted to just take a few minutes to go over a couple of things with you about fantasy, just to remind you that fantasy is something that includes magic, and the magic is usually a very crucial part of the story. Secondly, fantasy usually has events that occur outside of the normal laws of the universe. So people can fly or float or be invisible, things like that. Um, it can involve a journey or a quest, which we might see happen in the text. And there might be characters or creatures that do not exist in the real world, and we may see that as well um, coming up pretty soon. So I want you to just think back to the first chapter. We met Gregor, and he is in New York City in the summer, and he is stuck, unfortunately, not able to go to camp. He has to take care of his grandmother who is kind of losing her memory, and he is taking care of his 2-year-old sister named Boots. So, and the so far he's our main character, and we know a little bit about what he wants. Is that he wants his father to come home, which he's going to talk a little bit more about in this first chapter, because his father is not there. So we're going to see the problem at the end of this story will lead us into the next chapter. Um, and then I will leave you with a question to think about. So we left off right here. Running track was good too, pushing his body on and on until everything had been drummed out of his mind. But if he was honest with himself, Gregor knew it had been years since he felt real happiness. Exactly 2 years, 7 months, and 13 days, he thought. He didn't try to count, but the numbers automatically tallied up in his head. He had some inner calculator that always knew exactly how long his dad had been gone. Boots could be happy. She wasn't even born when it happened. Lizzie was only 4. But Gregor had been 8 and had missed nothing, like the frantic calls to the police who had acted almost bored with the fact that his dad had vanished into thin air. Clearly, they thought he'd run off. They'd even implied it was with another woman. That just wasn't true. If there was anything Gregor knew, it was that his father loved his mother, that he loved him and Lizzie, that he would have loved Boots. But then, how could he have left them without a word? Gregor couldn't believe his dad would abandon the family and never look back. Accept it, he whispered to himself. He's dead. A wave of pain swept through him. It wasn't true. It couldn't be true. His dad was coming back because, because what? Because he wanted it so badly. It must be true. Because they needed him? No, thought Gregor. It's because I can feel it. I know he's coming back. The washer spun to a stop, and Gregor piled the clothes into a couple of dryers. And when he gets back, he'd better have a really good explanation for where he's been, muttered Gregor as he slammed the dryer door shut. Like he got bumped on the head and forgot who he was, or he was kidnapped by aliens. Lots of people got kidnapped by aliens on TV. Maybe it could happen. He thought about different possibilities a lot in his head, but they rarely mentioned his dad at home. There was an unspoken disagreement or agreement, that his dad would return. All the neighbors thought he'd just taken off. The adults never mentioned it, and neither did most of the kids. About half of them only live with one parent, anyway. Strangers sometimes asked, though. After about a year of trying to explain it, Gregor came up with the story that his parents were divorced and his dad lived in California. It was a lie, but people believed it. Well, no one seemed to believe the truth, whatever that was. And after he gets home, I can take him, Gregor said aloud, and then stopped himself. He was about to break the rule. The rule was that he couldn't think about things that would happen after his dad got back. And since his dad could be back at any moment, Gregor didn't allow himself to think about the future at all. He had this weird feeling that if he imagined actual events like having his dad back next Christmas or his dad helping to coach the track team, they would never happen. Besides, as happy as some daydream could make him, it would only it only made returning to reality more painful. So that was the rule. Gregor had to keep his mind in the present and leave the future to itself. He realized that his system wasn't great, but it was the best way he'd figured out to get through a day. Gregor noticed that Boots had been suspiciously quiet. He looked around and felt alarmed when he couldn't spot her right away. And then he saw a scuffed pink sandal poking out from the last dryer. "Boots, get out of there," said Gregor. You had to watch her around electrical stuff. She loved plugs. As he hurried around across the laundry room, Gregor heard a metallic clunk and then a giggle from Boots. Great, now she's dismantling the dryer, thought Gregor, picking up speed. As he reached the far wall, a strange scene confronted him. The metal grate to an old air duct was wide open, secured by two rusty hinges at the top. Boots was squinting into the opening, about 2 feet by 2 feet, which led into the wall of the building. From where he stood, Gregor could see nothing but blackness. Then a wisp of, was it steam? Smoke? It didn't really look like either. Some strange vapor drifted out of the hole and curled around Boots. She held her arms out curiously and leaned forward. "No!" yelled Gregor as he lunged for her. But Boots' tiny frame seemed to be sucked into the air duct. Without thinking, Gregor thrust his head and shoulders into the hole. The metal grate smacked into his back. The next thing he knew, he was falling down, down into empty space. All right, readers, a couple of things. So we have a problem. I want you to think, first of all, about what you think Gregor might have seen as he was falling. And then I want us to think about the point of view. What point of view has the author chosen to use? How do we know that it's third person? And why do you think third person is chosen? Could first person work? Why or why not? So, could it be told from Gregor's point of view? Right now, we have it told from third person, where somebody's telling us about Gregor and what's going on. But would it work to tell it from Gregor's perspective? And then again, what do you think Gregor saw as he fell? See you tomorrow, readers.